Hi there, my name is Chris Cuigini, and I am a health communication professional. I've been doing communications work for 9+ years and have been working in the field of public health after earning my master's in public health for the last 4 years. I actually just came right into the public health workforce right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I call that my baptism by fire because if you've worked in the pandemic, you know that it was fast paced, it was hard, long days. Then the vaccine rollout that made for a lot of tension and tough days to get through. So I laud all of my fellow public health workers and fellow health communicators who had to serve during that time. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the power, really, of communication and health communication in a general sense, right? So I always would watch the Oprah show with my mom, and she would often talk about the poet and author Maya Angelou, who would say, when you know better, you do better, right? Well, sometimes, how do you get to know better? That's kind of the key in communication. Communicators try to help you know better, the public know better about things. I take vaccine education, for instance, right? We want to make sure people know what the vaccine can do, like, so how's it going to protect me against a certain virus? What's in it? How is it going to impact me? What potential side effects may I experience because of a vaccine? Where can I get it? These are all questions that a lot of people had on their minds when the vaccine had rolled out, and really public health and vaccine research and all of those things were really put under a microscope at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I want to talk about how health communication can advance not just justice, but health equity, right? So for an example, at the health department that I worked at during the COVID-19 pandemic, what we had planned to do was just have large scale clinics where people could come and they could get their vaccine. They'd have to wait in line, of course, and wait their 15 minutes or 30 minutes for their to sit after the vaccine to be monitored, and then move on with their day, and then come back again for their second dose. But as we saw a lot of those health professionals, first responders, healthcare workers, and elderly come and get their vaccine, those lines started to dwindle. So we had to do a big push on health communication. So it was, putting messages on billboards, on social media, on television, on radio, going on and doing interviews, and really speaking about what the COVID-19 vaccine was and what it does for you and how it's going to protect you. So we did see that our numbers would increase when we would put out messages. But what we would hear from people is, I wish you could come to my community. I can't get to where you are. You're centrally located, but I live in an outlying area of your county, of our county. So I can't get there. So we kind of put our brains together, and we had worked with our local RTA service that provided bus services for the people of Stark County, Ohio. And we actually went to communities, went to school parking lots, we went to businesses parking lots. We kind of just went anywhere that would welcome the bus, and we turned the bus into vaccine clinics. And then people could register their time, or they could just walk into the bus, sign in, get their vaccine, and move on their way. But in the meantime, we had to educate, right? So my job as a health communicator, I was out there doing interviews every day, coming up with new messages, taking the information that the FDA and IH, CDC would put out, and I would try to make it localized for the information that we have. Try to get local experts, local doctors, people that were known and were trusted in the community, and also within communities. Who was known in the Black or African American community, who was known in the Hispanic and Latinx community, who was known in the Jewish community or the religious community that could and supported getting the vaccine and could speak on behalf of that, and translating our graphics and messaging into Spanish or other languages that we needed. And while the stuff that was coming down, from these major national and statewide organizations was wonderful and was used, people know their local health department. They may often know a person that they see at the grocery store, go to church, or is their neighbor. So we wanted to make sure that the community health department was talking to the community members. It wasn't some faceless person or bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. or Columbus, Ohio. So we wanted to engage that way. So we used our RTA services. We would put out social media posts, press releases. We would go on the local radio station. We would have that in the newspaper, and we would often get 20 to 50 people coming per stop to get their COVID-19 vaccine. Then incentives start. So it was explaining how the incentive works. Come and get your first, dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, and you get $100 gift card to Target or Walmart, working with our local stores to get the amount of gift cards that we needed. So after all of that, right, what is the point? How do we advance justice? How do we advance health equity? Health communication, it's the most powerful thing we can do. We can put messages out on social media, in regular or old-fashioned terms, right? Billboards, newspaper ads. We can do online ads for websites that geo-target to people in a certain geographic area. We come up with unique campaigns that sometimes may have a tongue-in-cheek slogan that you just think, wow, okay, it made you look at it, it made you think about that topic. Or it could just be very bright, colorful. Or you may have to think, are these colors good for someone who's colorblind? So there's a lot of components that goes into crafting a health communication message. But what we want to do with everything we put out is we want to change someone's life for the better, right? We wanted you to go get your vaccine so you could celebrate the holidays again, you could gather again, you didn't have to wear a mask, or you didn't have to be scared of going out of your home. It was going to be a way for you to fight the virus, for your body to fight the virus. So we wanted to make sure that you had all the information that you needed. But there are a lot of ways that we found throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. It uncovered a lot of serious things that we neglected, right? There were a lot of things that we would get money for a campaign. This is from a public health perspective. So we would get money for a campaign or an idea to push, whether it was car seat safety or safe sleep tactics for your child, or making sure that your septic tank, if you have a septic tank, was pumped regularly. And then that message would go away because the money ran out. So there was no consistency in the messaging or the tools in which you provided people with that information. So what I tried to do as a health communicator was say, okay, we're going to make central locations. We had a GIS technology person who could work on creating geo-mapping locations for women's health. And so we would take for transportation and mental health and reproductive health, we would take all the places that we knew of in the county and we would solicit, do you do this? Do you offer this service? And then we would put them in categories and put them on a map. So we had a website, we had a really nice campaign. We pushed that out through our RTA service on ads. We did radio ads, we did radio interviews about it, we talked to the local paper, we sent letters to all of the organizations that appeared on the maps, sent them little table tents and posters. We sent posters for waiting rooms, posters for exam rooms for women, and then we also had printed copies of all of the locations per category, so transportation, mental health, reproductive health, and we would put all of that out there. And then we would also make sure that the website and the document that we put out were, translated into Spanish. So we tried in every way to have something that was not just going to go away after the money was spent, but something that could really live on so that you could always go access that information or have it at your fingertips, or at least know who to call or where to go get it. Because the thing is public health workers work every single day to make a difference, but sometimes it does go unnoticed. And sometimes you have people that are in public health that are not trained properly on how to deal with communication tactics or tools to do that, or how to measure the success of that. It's all great if we put all of that out there, but then if nobody showed up for our vaccine clinics, we were doing something wrong. Or if no one came to our STD walk-in clinics, what was happening? What more could we do to get them there? Was there a need? That's the first question. How are we getting the word out? How can we change it? How do we do something different? How do we come up with a new campaign or message? And so health communication work can truly make a difference in your everyday life, because you get to see these messages and you want to see it from a trusted source. You want something that's going to resonate with you and speak to you. So that's why it was so important for us to create messages and visuals that were going to appeal to multiple communities. But if we needed to make something separate for another community, we did that. We worked with our local, for instance, we worked with our local NAACP, and we were in Urban League and created a graphic that had African Americans and Black individuals on there, and information about where to go, not just for the COVID-19 vaccine, but for public health needs in general. And it was given out by the Urban League. Their logo was on it. The NAACP, they supported what we put out, and they did it at a food drive to over 10,000 people that got that information. And we had people come in with that flyer and say, I got this information. You put someone that looked like me on it, and that made all the difference to come in and get in a COVID-19 vaccine. So again, while we learned a lot was uncovered during COVID. We have a lot more work to do, right? It's not just about COVID, right? I'm just using these as examples because it made us do things that we had never done before. It challenged us to communicate in a different way. If we communicated like this as aggressively as we could, and coming out with new campaigns and really listening to the people that consume the things we put out, we could probably save more babies' lives because of safe sleep tactics and making sure women, mothers, families, fathers knew exactly how they should put their child on the back or put them to bed, make sure there's no bumper pads or stuffed animals or loose sheets in the crib. Just knowing basic things like that. Knowing that your child needs to wear a helmet so that they don't have a concussion if they fall off their bike. Knowing that it's important to get your septic tank pumped or to have water tests done if things are not right. Boil your water. Why do you boil your water if there is a boil alert in your area? If you live near, let's say, some type of plant and toxic chemicals are being pumped into the air and things are just not right, knowing who to call to say, hey, we need some help. This may be dangerous to my family and to the families of this community. And knowing why it's dangerous and things that you can do to, to prevent against any type of illness or to really save your life in those instances. So I think health communication and communication practices in general truly belong at the public health table and the health table in general, because there's just so much that we as health communicators can do, that we can offer. We take all of the hard work, like I said, that these scientists and researchers and medical staff and all of these public health workers that work hard on a daily basis. We can take all of that work and we can help communicate it in an easy to understand way, something that's digestible and relatable, and something that at the end of the day, when you know better, you do better, that can help save your life. So thank you for taking the time to invite me today to talk a little bit about health communication and how communication really can advance justice and health equity and save the lives of the people that we've all been called to serve. Thank you so much.